Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Now, if you follow all the boxing YouTube channels, you probably know that Tunde Ajayi and Spencer Fearon have their own show. I can't remember the title of it, but it's a podcast they do, and it's always worth listening in. But I want to concentrate on a little piece of their last show, which involved an interview with Chris Eubank Sr. And of course, you may have heard this already. Sometimes I'm late for the party. What can I say? But I think this bears repeating. If you haven't heard this interview from Eubank Sr, it is absolutely astounding. Incredibly emotional. Rant is the wrong word, because Chris speaks with an awful lot of poise and composure, but the passion and the emotion seeps through as well. It's Chris is obviously talking about the whole Conor Ben Eubank Jr scenario with the PEDs, and he lies the blame not at the feet of Conor Ben, who he describes as a clean young man, and someone who wouldn't cheat. And I don't know, I wouldn't quite agree with that part. I mean, we don't know whether Conor Ben knowingly put substances into his body. You can also make the argument that he should know that it's his body. But Chris, this is Chris's opinion, not necessarily mine. He says, Chris Sr. says, people tell you, you put your trust in trainers and promoters and so on, and they say, well, do this. This is your training regime. Put this in your body. Oh, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And as a result, fighters end up being exploited and manipulated and end up in the sort of trouble that Conor Ben's now in. Now, that may or may not be true. I suppose it's feasible. The jury's still out for that. I mean, I find it personally, I find it possibly unlikely that Ben didn't know anything about what he was putting into his body. But okay, maybe Chris is right. Chris is a guy who's been in boxing and not merely observed it for most of his life. I haven't. I've observed boxing for decades, but I've never been a professional fighter. I've never been a trainer. I've never been a promoter or a manager. So I respect Chris Sr.'s opinion. But he also talks about his son, and he says, look, I told my son from the word go, this is the wrong fight. Don't do it. They're boiling you down to an unhealthy, dangerous weight. Please don't do it. And my son, I respect my son, but he doesn't respect me. These are the words he was saying. He doesn't respect, I'm paraphrasing. He doesn't respect my experience and my knowledge and so on and so forth. And he seemed very, very upset with Chris Jr., who, let's be honest, he's in his 30s now, Chris Jr. Is he nearly 33 or 32, something like that? He's going to be his own man. He's a grown man, of course he is. He should be. And as a parent, at some point, you've got to let go, and you've got to let people make their own mistakes. And I understand totally why Chris Sr. or any parent would want to protect their child. Of course I understand. I don't have children myself, but of course I understand it. Of course I do. It's the most basic logic. You want to protect your kids. My mother is 84. She still worries about me when I'm in my mid-50s. I get it. I would be the same if I had kids. But Senior says of Junior, he says, he doesn't respect my views. He took this fight. But more pointedly, and really quite, I personally found it a bit shocking. He said that in life, we all have, heroes to some extent, or people that we aspire to be like, which is true. We can pretend that we don't, that we're our own men or women, but we all have people we look up to and we think, yeah, I want to be like that. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. And sometimes we pick the wrong role models, Absolutely. There's too much of that goes on. Younger people picking absolutely the wrong role models. And Eubank Sr. mentions Floyd Mayweather Jr. He says, my son wants to be, a bling boy. He looks at Mayweather with all his, money and his toys and his, garish lack of taste. Again, I'm paraphrasing. And he looks to him and he wants to be like him. He said, and he describes Mayweather Jr. as, a brilliant fighter. He's massive respect for him. But as a person, no. In fact, Eubank Sr. calls Floyd Mayweather Jr. a pig. He said he's, pig in a trough, basically, with all his, greed, a greedy pig. I think that was the phrase. And I mean, those are hard words from a man who is entitled to make them, who has been through the mill himself. And yeah, I get that. Again, I totally get that. I wouldn't want my son or daughter looking up to anyone like Floyd Mayweather Jr., who, as brilliant a fighter as he was, has absolutely no idea about any kind of taste or class or morality. Anybody who is obsessed with money to the point where it consumes them, where they name themselves after the word money, is just, I don't know, a vacuum, if you like. It's all about knowing the value of something rather than the price of it. And Mayweather is incapable of the former and obsesses about the latter. So Eubank Sr is not happy with Junior for going down that path. And we've seen Junior with his McLaren and, is, again, very sort of, I think he actually wore one of that, that stupid luggage jacket that he wore, that brown thing monstrosity. I think Mayweather Jr actually had the same thing a couple of years ago. So maybe Senior's right. Maybe Eubank Jr., I don't know the man, of course, but maybe he is obsessing too much on wanting to be like a Mayweather Jr., which to me, can, as a man, can only be a very, very bad thing, a very empty, vacuous, insignificant and trivial thing. To be a fighter like Mayweather Jr., yes, absolutely. But of course, as always, we must differentiate between the fighters and the men. It is two different things entirely. So Eubank Sr, incredibly emotional on this podcast. Again, I'm going to leave the link to Tunde Ajayi and Spencer Fearon's podcast in the description box. It's a couple of hours long, but at the same time, I mean, I think the interview with Eubank is probably about 18 minutes in, 20 minutes in, thereabouts. But Eubank ends by saying the following. He says, "We have toddlers looking after us fighters. These guys are called managers and promoters. These guys, I'm coming for you. You tried to murder my boy." And then he says, after he'd said that, I got a little carried away there. Well, no, you're entitled to. This is how he feels. He lost one son, don't forget, Eubank Sr. Sebastian tragically passed away, and he doesn't want to lose another son. I completely get it. He is fighting, as a fighter should, as a man should, for his children. I respect that. And you can say, well, he's overreacting and blah, blah. Again, I would never make that judgment. I don't have children myself, but I do have family members. I do have people who are not my family members who I love, and I would fight to the absolute, literally to the absolute death to protect some of these people, the people that I love, as any man should, And you can call that melodramatic or whatever you like, but, boxing's no joke. I've never liked the idea that boxing is considered a sport. To me, sports are games. Boxing is not a game. Boxing, you lose your life in boxing, or at the very least, you can pick up so much damage that when you retire, if you're a rarity, you may retire with a bit of money in the bank, because most fighters don't. But further on in life, it takes its toll, and you've swapped those brain cells. Brain cells do not regenerate. The brain does not regenerate. Once they're gone, those brain cells. Not like other parts of the body. It's not like the liver, which you can chop in half and it'll grow back. Literally grow back. It's the only organ in the body that will. But yeah, anyway, what did you think? Go watch this interview. Hell of an interview. Really, I was really taken back. Tunde Ajayi actually had a tear in his eye when he's listening to Chris speak, because he spoke with such passion. But Eubank has always spoken with great eloquence, and although people make fun of him and saying he's trying to be, the Earl of Sussex or whatever, with the posture that he puts on, he is absolutely correct when he talks about the necessity of words and having the ability to communicate. If you have the ability to communicate, if you concentrate on language and study words, very few people can pull the wool over your eyes. Because if you combine a control of language, in this case the English language, with a good insight into a person's psyche or the psychology of human beings, that's a very, very good tool to have in your toolbox. To be able to understand, or at least have some insight into a person's psychology, and to be able to articulate what you see and what you feel. It's very, very, and by the way, I mean into your own psychology as well, not just other people's, but to be able to to describe that, to talk about it in very clear terms, that's a hell of a weapon. And Eubank does this in this interview. Have a listen to it, see what you think. Leave your comments below. Thank you as always for your time. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. We're nearly at 1,000 subscribers. It'll be a great help if you just hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well if you like the video. Thanks as always. We'll speak again soon, and bye for now.